Welcome to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson. Well, earlier we had a chance to talk to two candidates for Jackson County Commissioner. Now, they're not running against each other because they're running for different positions within the Jackson County Commissioner positions. First is Colleen Roberts. She is running for position number 3 at Jackson County, and the other one is Rick Dyer, who's running for position 1. So we sat down to chat about key issues, and so join me now as we talk to candidate Colleen Roberts and candidate Rick Dyer. Well, today we are delighted to have a couple of candidates running for Jackson County Commissioner, position 3. We're delighted to have with us today Colleen Roberts, and for position 1, Rick Dyer. And these are the two candidates who have earned the right to be on the ballot. They were in the primary, and they're here in the general election, and I think that says a lot. And quite frankly, in my opinion, you're the two that have earned the right to be officially on the ballot. So thank you for running in the primary.
Thank you.
And congratulations on your win. And here you are now in the general election. Delighted to have you both. Got a lot of little things to talk about, but Colleen, let me start with you. Ladies first, go ahead and take a few seconds and tell us about yourself and why in the world you get into this thing.
Well, I'm Colleen Roberts. I'm running for position 3 for Jackson County Commissioner, and I'm a native of Southern Oregon, and my husband and I live in Prospect, and that's where we raised our 3 boys. And my grandma's telling Rick I'm a grandmother of 12 under the age of 10.
Really?
So I figured that prepared me for politics.
Oh, wow.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
No, but I've been a longtime business owner, and I have a master's degree in business, and had the opportunity to cover the commissioner issues and topics for the Upper Oak Independent for about the last 2.5, 3 years, and decided we need to make some changes desperately in the direction I believe our county's going, and decided I better step up and put my hat in the ring, and the citizens of Jackson County were very supportive and behind what I have to say, and I'm just really honored with the endorsement from the Republican Party, and I was the write-in candidate for the Democrat Party, so I won that endorsement as well, which was quite unique, I guess, first time for Jackson County. And so here we are headed to the general election, and it's just a real honor to be at this point, and I'm covered with a lot of prayer, and I wouldn't go without it. And it's been a real pleasure.
All right, Rick, and you, welcome.
Well, thank you very much. And first, I hope you allow me to just my wife's birthday is today, and I wanted to say happy birthday, Kara, and I love you, and thank you for being my rock and my #1 support system.
Congratulations.
Couldn't be here without her. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Well, as you know, my name is Rick Dyer, and I'm running for Jackson County Commissioner, position 1. I decided to run just because I do have a passion for the county. I've lived here almost 40 years. I tend to be here the rest of my life. I own a business here. I have a 10-year-old son that attends public school here. Of course, I met and married my wife, Kara, here. So again, deeply invested in the community. I've volunteered my time. I'm a member of the RVTD Board of Directors. I've done that for a little over 5 years now. I'm also a youth coach. I've volunteered in classrooms, volunteered for various other charitable and civic organizations. So I do have a real concern for the quality of life and prosperity of the citizens of Jackson County, and not just for this generation, but for future generations. And again, one of my big reasons for running is I have a 10-year-old, and I would love for him to have the opportunity, when the time comes, to make the decision to be able to stay here in Southern Oregon, make a good living, raise a family in a safe environment, and those are the things that I'm going to try to make sure happens here in Jackson County if I'm elected. Those are going to be my priorities.
All right, thank you both. I want to get into a couple of the key issues today, and again, this is not a debate because they're really not running against each other. Colleen is clearly the candidate for position 3, and she came through the primary, won that. Now she's on the general ballot. And Rick, clearly the candidate for Jackson County Commissioner, position number 1, again through the primary and here in the general election. So, Colleen, let me start with you, and both of you. And you know, let's just be conversational here. But the #1 issue, you both mentioned it: jobs.
Absolutely.
We still have an unemployment number here in Jackson County that's nothing to be proud of. And yet we have perhaps the most desirable place to live and work in all of the country. But let me start with you. What would you do to help enhance business growth in Jackson County?
Well, I look at where our business growth is, and it is hard to pinpoint the problem. We're halfway between Los Angeles and Seattle, and we're halfway between Portland and San Francisco on I-5. We have an international airport. Why are we not the hubbub of commerce? I think is the $100,000 question, and I hope to get in there to really pinpoint it. From what I see from the outside, just a private citizen, is a real inhibiting factor by government. And that's kind of been my mantra through all the debates, is I think government needs to get out of the way. We have fees and permits and restrictions. Yes, some of them are state mandated, but I believe some of them are very much controlled by our county. And I think to me it's a concern. And as I talk to business owners, see it as their concern is the county micromanaging private business, and it'll be my desire to remove that.
Okay. Rick, let's get some more businesses coming to town. How do we do it?
Absolutely, and I'm going to echo what Colleen said. You know, first and foremost, we need to unbridle our local businesses, allow them to grow and prosper and hire here. Also, though, as far as attracting new business, I think, like you said, we have one of the most desirable places to live and work in the country. And we are attempting to put the carrot out there and tell people, you know, hey, come to Southern Oregon and relocate your business, but I don't think it's a focused enough approach. I think there's some really strong tech sector businesses that are doing well in Jackson County. I think that there's a lot more of those businesses that are located elsewhere that would love to locate here if they knew the story. So I would suggest and get behind a more focused approach where we take our story to some of these businesses that may be in Northern California, Southern California, wherever they might be, that can bring 50 to 100 jobs that pay between 1.5 and 2 times our median income, which in turn has a multiplier effect that creates another 4 or 5 jobs per job of that category. And I think that's the way you really start building on the economy. And in all of the above approach to, we need to get back to work in the woods. Rural communities are really hurting. Rural schools are really hurting because we're not out in the woods, and those need to be brought back as well. And we need to take advantage of our number one attribute here. Colleen mentioned it. We are a major hub. We are a regional center, and I think we can really do more to take advantage and capitalize on that when it comes to tourism. I've always been involved in youth sports, and I'm amazed at some of the places that I go. I was in Reno, where they had 1,000 basketball teams at a tournament there. That's about 10 to 12,000 kids with mom and dad and kids. We're talking maybe 30, 40, 50,000 people that are in that town for that week, and that kind of economic impact you can only imagine. So like I say, I'm more of an all of the above approach, and I think it's a problem that's very solvable.
All right, let me ask you a couple further questions as it relates to growing business in Jackson County. And I would agree. I mean, I've run a business here too, bumped into some of those permits and regulations and delays, and it is frustrating, there's no question about it. Could we do something to create an interim growth spurt, enterprise zone? Have you looked into that, Rick?
Absolutely.
What do you think?
I'm in favor of enterprise zones. I think that that's, again, a good way to attract business here. And it's when you have a business that takes advantage of an enterprise zone, yeah, we defer taxes for maybe 3 or 5 years. But those businesses, I think once they get here and they start growing and prospering, then they start paying the taxes just like every other business. But then we also have the jobs that they created, the investment that they made in the community, and all that continues. But we need to give ourselves that competitive advantage to get them here in the first place.
How about you, Colleen? What do you think of something like, or anything else you might have that would create?
I wanted to table on to what Rick said about getting our woods open. I mean, it's just common sense to manage our forests, and it does add to our economy.
How do we do that? I mean, you know, we got Congressman Walden's been involved in that. We've had other county commissioners go back.
Well, what I've seen in play is a year ago, a judge ordered the ONC Act to be fully enforced and the BLM to manage those lands, you know, for safety and just get the logs out for the fires and stuff. And I think we should honor that judge's order. I see Klamath County signing on with the Land Transfer Act and challenging other counties to do the same. And I heard from one of the commissioners who told me they have looked at that Land Transfer Act, and apparently the Oregon Association of Counties is put one together, and they're trying to take the best of both of those. And we just have to get proactive on that. In fact, Rick and I got to go tour the Douglas Fire Complex area, and we saw firsthand how private industry and federal manage their woods, and there is no comparison. Federal is waiting for an environmental impact study or a Endangered Species Act, and private lands, they're flourishing and they're beautiful and not in a danger where all the snags are in federal management. But enough, that is just a no-brainer, and I just would really strive for that for our county.
Would either one of you hook the harvesting of, let's say, best scenario, O&C gets opened up, we take advantage of the judge's thing, we're in there, we're harvesting. One of the incentives has been tossed around that you would connect some of those harvest dollars to education. The state would do that as an incentive to get some of those who oppose it to open up. I mean, what do you think of that idea?
Well, I think if it helps get some of the opposition out of the way, yes, and I believe that education does deserve funding. I mean, it's a very important part of what we do as a government. I'm not saying that education shouldn't be without reform, but to fund it, absolutely. And you know, there's a lot of other reasons too. Our county is in pretty good financial shape, but we're being affected by counties around us that aren't in very good financial shape because they don't have those O&C revenues, and it's just going to get worse. And not to mention, to me, getting back in the woods, absolutely, we want to get people back to work, but there is a real danger out there with the current condition and the absolute state of neglect that our forests are in. And what frightens me the most is that we don't. There's like the underbrush, the dry underbrush, the densities of the forest, and now we're closing down access roads. We're not allowed to build fire breaks. The potential for a catastrophic million-acre fire is a real possibility, and that's something that needs to be priority one to head off if possible.
Colleen, you want to respond? I got to take a break, but go ahead and respond on that, because part of that would be, you think we've learned from our mistakes in forest management in the past, to what if we're back in now, we're going to manage them much better?
I truly feel the only way we will be able to manage them is if the lands are transferred back to the states. The federal government's too hamstrung with environmental, tie downs on them. I think our states can manage them best, and locally we can manage them even better for our county, which is what I would strive for. But yeah, I think we need to get them managed. We've seen what happened to the city of Weed, and any of those could happen to our little outlying communities that are in the middle of the woods.
Okay. All right, we are delighted to have with us today Colleen Roberts. She is the official candidate for position number 3, and Rick Dyer. He is the official candidate for position number 1 for Jackson County Commissioners, her commission seats, and we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Paulina, and I work at theDove TV. Did you know that when you support theDove TV, you have a profound impact, not only in our community, but around the world? It's your continued support that takes the inspiration and hope in the programs we produce and makes them available to the thousands of people who are watching these videos online every week. Help bring encouragement and hope to our valley and beyond by making a secure online donation today at our website, thedove.us.
All right, we're back, and delighted to have with us today 2 candidates for commissioners' seats in Jackson County, and position number 3, Colleen Roberts, and position number 1, Rick Dyer. And both of these candidates, in my opinion, have clearly earned the right to be on the ballot because they were in the primary, and they won their primary, and now they are in the general election. And so I think that is a major factor in today's. In fact, we have a measure on the ballot coming up that wants to deal with this whole thing called open primaries. When I was chairman of the Republican Party for the state of Oregon for 4 years, I fought this every election cycle, and I opposed it tremendously. And I find it interesting that both parties oppose it. Both parties oppose this measure being on the ballot. And yet both of you are tagged with opponents who did not honor the primary system, and they're trying to sneak their way in at the end. So I want to say thank you for playing by the rules, so to speak. All right, a lot going on. You made the statement, Rick, earlier that the county is in fairly good financial condition. That's done through properly managing the O&C mess, knowing that those, I remember the late Hank Henry was the commissioner, and he watched those, he kept saying, we're going to lose them, we're going to lose them. And he was right, and they went down. So the county has managed itself pretty well. Do you agree? And what would you do differently?
I do agree. I think that, like you say, there's been some proactive involvement as far as seeing what's going to happen, but also just some good policies being made. I'm going to give the commissioners, not just the current ones, but prior to that, and our county administrator, Danny Jordan, some credit there. I think that they've been innovative, they've been proactive, and there's a lot of programs that I've seen that absolutely contributed to that. And when you look, the proof is obviously in the pudding there. We're actually contributing to our reserve funds in these times where most other counties around us, well, Josephine County, the county that I went to junior high and high school in, only has 2 sheriff's deputies.
Yeah.
My mom still lives over there, and it scares me to death. And that's the thing, I think, that continuing with those fiscally responsible policies is another one of my when I say another one of my number 1 priorities, another one of my top priorities. And I think it's very important to be, again, this isn't going to be the last economic downturn we have. There'll be others, and we need to be prepared, keep our eye on the ball, contribute to those reserve funds, and be ready.
Colleen, you too. I mean, the county's in pretty good shape, you know. What do you think?
It is. I'm really concerned about the budget for 2 or 3 reasons. One, we did return some money to the rainy day fund, and that was good. But when we look at our budget, we have, it's been alleviated some with the library tax district and the extension tax district. And so I think the county may have a little bit more of a glut of money. I really want to be a good steward for the people. And even if, and I've never even mentioned this in a forum, but I looked, even if we can analyze what just making 2 cents off our tax rate would do just to return a portion to the people. I'm concerned about the tax level. When you see the foreclosure rates in our paper, I'm concerned about the tax level on the private citizens. And if we made that $2 and a penny, just $1.98, just kind of take it in a different direction, seeing what the result of that would be, I would love to take a look at. I'm concerned also the direction of our county, and Commissioner Skundrick has confirmed we are more and more dependent on federal and state grants to provide our services. And some of those grants I definitely think are useful, necessary, and helpful, and I believe some carry strings attached. I want to be really closely monitoring that it doesn't rob us of our liberties and our freedom for the money. And it is a major concern of mine about the way I see government going. And even I didn't get to respond on the enterprise zones. Those somewhat concern me in that they're not equitable for all business. They just, certain areas get an enterprise zone tax break. And if we can somehow make it an even tax break for all business and research that end. And because what I read in the paper is the enterprise zone is going to be monitored by SoReady. Why can't the commissioners take charge of that as well? I just think we're going to be paying another government entity. It's just layers, more and more layers. I want a smaller, smarter government. And that's what I run and campaign on totally.
Okay. Both of you quickly mentioned libraries. They always seem to be a little bit of a hot potato thrown out there. And we got through a library crisis before. They did some cutbacks. We're very blessed in this county to have a lot of them. I guess the question would be, do we need that many? The next question would be, and could we lean more towards a voluntary library? Let's face it, this is the digital world. And people get all of their information, at least a majority of it, from these devices. And that's not to take from the importance of the library, don't get me wrong, but Is there another way so we're not constantly having this on the ballot? I'll start with you.
Well, from what I've seen with the new library tax district, it is out of control of the commissioner's purview now. Hopefully we will be part of that as far as, because it's a county operation still, but it isn't, the money and their setup will be done through their board. And I was not for the taxing district. I think we should have tried to make do with what we have. I think government needs to try to do that a little bit more in a lot of areas, just like we do in our budgets. And but the people did pass it, so they will be working with what they can. Yeah, I think we have a little library in Prospect, and I confess I've never been in it, but and small communities maybe need that. But we have community halls, they have libraries in the schools. I mean, we all have our electronic devices. I think we need to probably look at that, and the board probably will as they try to deal with their budget in operating the full gamut of libraries.
How about you, Rick?
Well, I love the libraries. I use them. And I understand and I appreciate that they're more than just buildings full of books. They are community centers in a lot of our areas. That being said, I think that we are going to see the 60 cent per thousand millage. I think people are going to really see what that means to their tax bill, and we're probably going to there may be a revisiting of that at some point. And I understand that. I do, in my business, I spend a lot of times in folks' homes helping them cut $50 to $100 maybe a year or more than that, hopefully in a lot of cases, but how to get them within a budget because they're living on the margins. And that 60 cents per thousand can mean some real money to homeowners. And I think, again, it was passed, and I'm a big believer in the democratic process, but I believe that's something that may be revisited again, and maybe rightfully so.
All right, we all do want to see the county grow. We want to attract new businesses. We want current businesses to expand and grow and employ people. I mean, that's the bottom line, more people working here. Is the infrastructure, do you think the infrastructure that we currently have allows for that, Rick?
Well, I think it could certainly be improved, and there's efforts to do that. Again, depending on which type of businesses we're trying to attract, it requires different infrastructure. I think one of the things we need to be concentrating on too is being able to train a workforce to be able to staff some of these tech sector businesses, for example. And I do believe our public transportation is certainly an important factor. We need to be able to tell a business that may want to consider moving here that we have a way to get their employees to those proposed business sites. And also, our colleges, like I say, we need to make sure that kids that want to pursue an education are able to get to the college of their choice and to work or wherever they might need to go, to their doctor's appointment, things like that. But yeah, I believe that's an important part of our infrastructure as well.
How about you, Colleen?
Oh, I think our infrastructure is very adequate. The only time I see a complication for business is when government steps in to help. And so many times when they go to revamp a road, we were the recipient of that. They revamped Highway 62, blocked off access. And I think when government goes to make a better infrastructure, they don't consider the businesses. And I wish they'd just stay out of the way because they do block it. You see it lots of times on those 4-lane highways or where they take a bypass, and it just circumvents a going business, and they feel the consequences of it. But I just think government getting out of the way is the best thing. I don't feel like it's they're not in charge of getting kids to school. It's good for people to take their own incentive themselves and get there.
Several ARP, other agencies, has said that Southern Oregon is like number 5 in the country. I've seen the number go up and down a little bit as a place to retire, primarily because of our climate. And one of the big issues is our medical community got probably second to none, And all of those two industries alone spark a lot of jobs, and it filters out into retail and everything else. So if we are becoming a good place to retire, could we enhance that? It's been suggested, all right, let's freeze the county tax rate on homes of elderly as their permanent resident at the age of 65. Would you be open to that, Rick?
Well, that's a pretty open-ended. I think that we need to be equitable in how we tax across the board. If there's elderly folks that are living on the margins and not able to make ends meet, maybe we make some concessions as far as deferring their taxes, but making it a blanket.
Well, they were saying a freeze. The recommendation was on elderly, say 65 and up. That's young these days.
Yeah. It's coming right up, I know.
But anyway, but you just freeze the rate. You just don't let it go up. You just freeze it, especially if those are on fixed income. They could count on that.
Well, again, I think we need to be equitable across the board, and if that spurs more investment in the valley, then it would certainly be worth taking a look at. But I can't just say right off the cuff.
And I get that, because a lot of people are saying because of that, that's why the reverse mortgages are so popular. You know?
Right.
But at the end, does the family really win in a reverse mortgage? You know. So anyway, your thoughts on that quickly?
I have never heard of freezing that option. I'm for running government where they don't have to worry about freezing it. It stays low. You know, and by county government running due diligence and living within their means, it will free up people to live, whether on fixed incomes or unemployed, more economically. And I will strive to be that citizen representative to provide that avenue.
Well, I want to thank you both for being here. As you can tell, it goes pretty fast in television. Colleen, go ahead and give us about a 30-second wrap on voting for you.
Okay, well, I believe in representing the people and not government. I think we've had a lot of government representation and the people are not feeling represented, and that's the main probably reason I am running. I believe in small, smarter government that's less intrusive in our personal lives and in our businesses, and a government that champions economic growth and doesn't stifle job growth through numerous fees and permits, and that I'm a longtime business owner and have a master's degree in business and am ready to use it to a greater good.
All right, Rick, give us your closing comments.
I believe that I am uniquely qualified for this position. I think my background, my education, my involvement in the community makes me the best candidate for my position, for sure. I take a background in business as well as education in accounting, business administration. I have a law degree. I think I have a lot of attributes that will help us or help me lead us into a more prosperous and just a better future for Jackson County, and that is my intention, and that's what I hope I'm able to do for us.
I thank you both again. Colleen Roberts running for position number 3, and Rick Dyer position number 1, and they're already in that friendly little book that just came out. Everybody got the book, and you'll see them in there, and you can contact them there. Thank you both for coming in today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, a couple of candidates there running for Jackson County Commissioner. Coming up next, you know, October is Pastors Appreciation Month. Well, we appreciate all pastors and what they do, but we're going to give them an opportunity to share what God's talking to them about. And we're going to have a very special guest coming up next here on Focus Today.
Hi, I'm Paula, and I work at theDove TV. Every day we get letters and emails from people who've been encouraged, blessed, and challenged by the programs on theDove TV. But we couldn't do it without you. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us continue to bring inspiration and hope to our community by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us, or call us at 541-776-5368.
Okay, welcome back. And of course, October is Pastors Appreciation Month. And for the next couple of weeks, we've asked various pastors to come in and just share with us what the Lord is talking to them about. And I want to say to all you pastors, you got the toughest job in the world, and few really understand that. You are on call 24/7. You're supposed to be instant in season and out. You're never supposed to have a dry moment. You're always supposed to have the right answer. And you're always supposed to be there at the drop of a hat and be refreshing, encouraging, positive. Well, sometimes it's tough to do that, and we recognize that. I'm delighted to have with us our good friend back in the studio today, Pastor Mark Burton. He is the pastor of Medford Friends Church. Mark, good to see you, bud. How you doing?
Thank you, Perry. It's good to see you. Doing well.
How many years pastoring there?
24 at Medford Friends.
Wow. Thank you. That's a long time.
Well, and you know, my family and I all found the Lord there in the mid-1960s when my parents started attending there.
Really?
So it's been a lifetime.
Well, good for you. Well, congratulations and thank you. You know, as I said earlier, few would understand that pastoring really is a tough job. It's a delightful job, don't get me wrong, and
right.
You have to be called to do it.
You do.
But there are those moments, right? And you've never had a trial, you've never had a problem, you've never had a burden, you've never had a tough moment, right?
You know, you'd like to think not, but the good news is God sees us through, doesn't he? No matter what it is.
Yeah. Well, Mark, you have a couple of verses here that you want to share with us today, and I am delighted the two that you picked because I suppose this is where you're preaching these days and what the Lord is telling you, right?
It is. It is.
Let's go to Ephesians, be the first one there.
You know, I'm a student of culture, and like a lot of pastors, I read a lot of research, you know, what people who aren't part of the church think about the church.
Yeah.
And, you know, some consistent themes I see there are that there's a lot of people that believe in God. There's people that even want to grow in their knowledge of God that aren't part of the church. Mm-hmm. But also that people do not see the church as maybe that place to get to know God. Hmm. And I've actually heard a poll that made that statement. They were asking that question. And so, you know, there's a disconnect. We've dropped the ball somewhere. And so where might that be? And Ephesians 5, 1 and 2, I was preaching on a couple of weeks ago, and it just comes alive for me. Be imitators of God, therefore, as dearly loved children, and live a life of love just as Christ loved us and gave himself up for us as a fragrant offering and sacrifice to God. That whole idea of being imitators of God just hit me between the eyes. Wow. You know, it's not like I haven't read this passage, you know, hundreds of times, but I think so often we get caught up in doing instead of being. We try to do the things that God would have us to do, but we need to be imitators of God before we start the doing.
You know, that is powerful. And you said previous to that that the non-believers and how they view the church. So the only way we can get them in is to meet them on the outside and bring them in. Right. So their first encounter with Christ is what they see in us.
Absolutely.
And is that a good picture?
That's the question, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. How do you think the non-believing community sees the church in your research? What did that look like? They
see the church as a bunch of hypocrites. That's a very typical. Yeah. They see the church as focusing on too many of the wrong things, as opposed to a relationship with God. Maybe it's the one thing I see often is too political, too caught up in the political as opposed to what it really means to be followers of Jesus. And those are a couple of the really consistent themes that run throughout those surveys.
Right, right. We've seen them too, and one of the things that is interesting, it seems that the non-believing person knows what the church is against. They're not too sure what the church is for, and in this passage, do they see us as a haven of love or haven of criticism?
Right. And you know, I think, Perry, where the concept of being before doing comes in is that if we're just doing, it's faith of works. If we're taking the time to be like God before we do the things that God would do, then it's a faith that's flowing, our works are flowing out of our love for God.
You know, as a pastor, you got a twofold thing. You're trying to help those who in their walk and in their maturity, and at the same time, you're trying to take that same bunch and turn them into evangelists. How do you do that? How do you do that?
You know, through the years, I think I've just come to the concept that we just have to be as much like Jesus as we can be. And it's how we live that out, as you were saying, in the community as opposed to the words that we say. Mm-hmm. And so if we can become imitators of God, if we can become more like Jesus and show the love that Jesus showed us, as we read here, by giving himself as a fragrant offering and sacrifice to God, personally, I don't know who doesn't want to experience that in their lives, if they really knew that that's the road that Jesus was going to take them down.
Have you noticed, Mark, in pastoring, especially in the last 5 years or so, that believers are becoming weighted down with concerns that they weren't weighted with years ago? In other words, the whole world condition seems to have put a cloud over all of us, and therefore the world's looking into the church and going, well, you're weighed down with the same thing I'm weighed down, so I'll go look somewhere else.
Right.
Is that how you see it?
I think that we are very definitely dealing with that dynamic. And it's something that's impossible to escape as we live in this world that's, quite frankly, going crazy. Mm-hmm. You know, the things that we see happening today, we never dreamed of 10 years ago.
Does your congregation, well, how can I say this? Are you saying to them, did you find yourself ministering to their need, and at the same time, part of meeting that need is for them to give of themselves to somebody else? Do they sense that is part of the healing process?
I certainly try to give that message, and I think our folks do. I see people with real heart to minister to the folks around us. And so as God ministers to us, we should be taking that out and giving that to
So what
away.
do you think that, all right, being imitators, what does that look like to you?
That's what led me to my next passage, Galatians 5:22 and 23, where we read about the fruit of the Spirit. You know, those are all qualities that God wants to develop within each one of us.
All right, I want to get into those, and we'll deal with the fruits of the Spirit. Our special guest on this day is Pastor Mark Burton. He is the pastor of Medford Friends Church. And by the way, all of October is Pastor's Appreciation Month, so I hope that you and your church are doing something for your pastor special in recognizing the work that they do among us. Let me take a quick break, and Mark's going to share with us the fruit of the Spirit.
Hi, I'm Daniel and I work at theDove TV. You know, compared to Portland, Seattle, and LA, Medford might be considered a small market, but at theDove, we're excited about the opportunity to make a big impact right here in our community. And you help make that happen. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us now by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us, or by phoning 541-776-5368.
Okay, welcome back, and our special guest today is Pastor Mark Burton. He is the pastor of the Medford Friends Church, and I've been there 24 years. And I want to say to all you pastors, thank you for your service. And I can tell you, as in the years gone by, serving in that capacity, whether temporarily or, you know, in a permanent position, it ain't easy. It's just not easy. I remember one of the best classes I took in Bible college was a class called Practical Theology. And I'm glad I took it because it's there where I think I learned more in that class than I did in some of the theological classes. And don't get me wrong, going through the Bible is wonderful, but I learned how to do a funeral, a wedding, how to set up counseling, how to say no, you know, some of these things that sometimes you don't get. And when you're in the pastorate, you get inundated with everything, and you're supposed to know everything, you know.
Right.
And I'm sure you've never had to say, well, geez, I don't know the answer.
You know, it's always good to say, well, let's take some time to pray and study about that, and then we can come back to it.
Yeah, it's just a tough job. And, you know, one of the statistics, Mark, we see today is, and I think it's bared out in some ways in the calls that we get here at theDove, when people call for help, and we begin to talk to them and see what the needs are and try to refer them. A lot of people that call in are members of a church But two problems exist. One is they don't see their pastor as somebody they can get to.
Right.
They see the pastor as the preacher, teacher, and therefore they know that there's these other pastors on staff, but they really want to talk to the guy that's talking to them, and they can't get to him. And the other thing is that they don't want their pastor to know they got a problem, because they have this good image in front of them, and they don't want to blow that. So all the problems brew, and then we'll do a show about who knows what, whatever, Patrick Doyle or something like that. Then the phone will ring, and it all spills out here. So, you ever sense that?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. And you know, the idea of not wanting to air your problems, you know, we kind of have this idea that we need to have it together as Christians.
Yeah.
But
once saved, we're perfect?
That's the thought. But, you know, we're just in process. We are in process.
Well, I looked at the book of Acts after the church was born, the New Testament church was born. They went out and pretty much got their teeth kicked in, and they came back and prayed until the room shook.
That's right. That's right.
So there's no one trip to the altar, is there?
There is not. It's a lifelong process that we're in, and you know, we often use the example of an onion that, you know, we take a layer off, but there's another one waiting, and that's the way it is in our lives.
All right, let's come back to what the Lord's talking to you about, and that is being imitators of God, taken out of Ephesians chapter 5, verse 1, but then you got moved back over into Galatians chapter 5, dealing with the fruit of the Spirit. Tell us about that.
Well, we read in Scripture that the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness, and self-control. Those are all qualities of God's nature that the Spirit's working to develop into our lives. And you know, it's interesting is we look at that list and we look at the needs of the human heart. How many needs of the human heart are represented here? What are we really looking for in life? You know, love, just the classic example in Proverbs 19:22 says that what a man needs is unfailing love. That's what people are looking for. That's what Jesus wants to give us and develop within us as we look at these qualities of God's nature. And so as we think about being imitators of God, the only way we can imitate God, the only way we can do what God does is think the way God thinks, and that takes spending time with Him. It takes prayer, it takes Bible study, it takes allowing Him to work through everything in our lives to develop these qualities within us.
Of all the things that that God wants in somebody's life, and there's a lot of things, there's one common thread that kind of goes through all of it, and that is I really do believe God wants peace in our lives. And yet it appears today that we just don't have it. The world is just ratcheted up, and all of the issues in life, and we just don't seem to have the peace of God. Jesus said, the peace I give to you, man doesn't give to you, but I give unto you.
Right.
It's a different peace. In fact, it surpasses human understanding. There's another level of peace that goes beyond the humanness part. And it's one of the fruits here. Or you know, love, joy, peace. How would you describe that?
You know, the peace that we're all seeking begins with a personal relationship with God through Jesus Christ. That's where peace really begins. In the world, we chase after all the wrong things to find peace. We try to do it in all the wrong ways, and we leave God out. Well, as soon as we bring God in and we go, yeah, I need peace with God, and I find that through faith in Jesus Christ, then we have something to share with the people around us.
Well, I can tell you, the world's looking for it.
Yes, it is.
And if they don't see it in us, where are they going to see it? All right, now here's one, the next one. This is slowly becoming a very noticeable thing in my life. It's the word patience. And the reason I bring this up is that in our ministry here, Mark, we do a lot of research on trends with media. And now that the digital age is upon us and everybody's got some kind of a phone, tablet, some computer, some kind of a digital device, the attention span has dropped significantly.
Yes.
We know that people will listen to a song 8 to 10 seconds to determine whether or not they're going to finish listening to a song. I mean, we know that people will decide within 30 seconds whether or not they're going to finish watching a television program at the beginning. And the list goes on and on and on. And the attention span, I'm sure you talk to somebody and this phone will ring or vibrate, and somehow you're having a good conversation and they'll leave you to go to this. All of a sudden, this is more important, and you've been left in the cold. And the whole thing of patience seems to be gone. We don't seem to have any patience. Respond.
You know, I like your example of the conversation and the telephone, because we get distracted by the unknown. We don't know who's on that other end of that phone.
No, but what I just said was answering that phone is more important than talking to you.
Than the person that's sitting there in real life.
And it's the rudest thing. Or it'll vibrate, interrupt our trend, and we don't have the patience to finish what we started.
Yeah, we're chasing after the immediate when we have something real in front of us that is valuable. But we've lost that concept. And, you know, we think about Psalm 46:10 that says, "Be still and know that I am God."
That's right where I was going to go. How can we possibly be still if we're being vibrated into an interruption, you know? So I don't know. I mean, it's a real challenge. I've said on the Dove, and I know some of my staff kind of pushes back on it, but take a media fast, turn everything off. I mean, don't get me wrong, I want you to watch the Dove and listen to the Dove, but sometimes you just got to turn it all off and be still and know.
Right.
And when's the last time you knew?
And a lot of times when I'm going into an appointment, I leave my phone in the car, or if I'm in the office, I turn it off so that I don't have that become an interruption, so that I can be still with God and I can be still with that other person.
Another fruit here, and we probably won't get all through these, but I do want you to deal with a little bit. And actually, we could put two together, kindness and goodness. If there's ever an opportunity now to serve the world with kindness and goodness. Now, well, look, nobody's going to meet up to what we think they ought to be. But do we have the patience to show kindness and goodness because they're just a person in progress? You know, and I'm thinking of, there's a lot of groups of people that look into the church and they know what we're against. They don't want any part of us. And we don't have a chance to go serve them and show goodness and kindness to them. I mean, there is in itself the imitation that we're supposed to do.
Right. And, you know, that goodness comes as we start looking at people as God looks at them. You know, that just changes our whole perspective. And yeah, maybe this person's given all kinds of excuses, for example, why they don't go to church. But we don't have to fall into that. We can still love them, show them that same sacrificial love that Jesus showed us, as we're called to be imitators of God, living lives of love. And we need to figure out what says love to them, not what says love to us. You know, we talk about that in premarital counseling. I always try to get couples to talk about, okay, what says I love you to you, so that can be expressed by the spouse. And we need to do that with the people around us too. What communicates love to them in a way that they can go, wow, this person does care, this person does love me.
Well, I think there's a real opportunity for the church, and quite frankly, I don't know if we know how to go about it, but there's a lot of groups that look at the church and saying, look, I know you oppose what I believe in and what I do, and they just leave it at that. We haven't gotten out of our comfort zone to go say, hey, wait a minute, Christ died for you too.
Right.
And therefore, have we found this way of what we're calling patience, kindness, goodness, and gentleness, you know, to do it. Well, Mark, I want to say thank you for your 24 years of service, and as you continue to serve the Lord in the future, I would say that is a remarkable testimony of being faithful for what God called you to do.
And a remarkable testimony of God's faithfulness.
Yeah, and so the best to you and your church. When are your service times, quickly?
Sunday morning, 9:30.
Sunday morning, 9:30, and that's the Medford Friends Church, and you're at the corner, you're kind of a little, you're in a corner and a Y and a circle. What are you there?
Nobody's figured it out yet.
What is your address?
525 DeBar Avenue. We're right across from the Minute Market on Table Rock Road.
There you go. Can't miss it. Nice to see you. God bless you, pal.
Thank you,
All right,
Harry.
We'll see you next time on Focus.
Hi, I'm Jim, and I work at the Dove TV. Every weekday between 6 and 8 a.m., our award-winning news and sports team bring you the best morning show around. It's live, it's honest, and it's a whole lot of fun. And you help make it happen. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us continue to air local programs that share your voice by making a secure online donation at our website, theDove.us.